I've told some parents that from the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you're here and you want your child to get help. And my child, a lot of times, it's a 50-year-old child, and they have a parent that's saying, well, I want you to help them, but let me tell you how to help them. And I'm like, what you've been doing for the last 20 years hasn't worked. It's my turn.
Recovery Vow is sponsored by Bagwell Insurance, Sally Kohler Photography, and Burroughs Elijah, Attorney at Law, among many other sponsors. Thank you for your support. So Dr. Brown and Judge Pounds, I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on the Recovery Vow podcast today. Dr. Brown, you work with Willing Way, and so you work directly with folks in addiction and help them get to a point of sobriety.
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Judge Pounds, I know the work that you do in the community. You have a challenging job working with those in addiction because being a judge. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I enjoy being on this side of you because I've been not in front of you before, but my past has put me in front of judges. So I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eric, for inviting me on your podcast.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here. Yes, I'm from North Carolina originally, born and raised in High Point, North Carolina. I don't know if you've heard of Fantasia.
The singer.
Yes. Yeah, she's from High Point, North Carolina.
She is. Okay.
She is, yes. And so that's our claim to fame. That and the furniture market.
And the furniture
yes.
market.
Okay.
I love North Carolina.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, born and raised in High Point, and then where did you go to law school at?
So I went to law school at Emory in Atlanta, Emory University. From Emory, I ended up here in Augusta.
Got married before you came, or did you meet your husband here in Augusta?
I met my husband here in Augusta.
Look
Thank God.
you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I first moved here, I thought, okay, I am. You know how sometimes you think you know what you're doing, and God will kind of let you do it, and then to find out that wasn't the best idea. And so I moved here. And when I moved here, I was thinking, okay, I want to be somewhere else. I want to be in a bigger city. I want to do something different. And so I gave myself 2 years. Okay. And so I said, I'm going to be here for 2 years and then I'm leaving. 1 year, 11 months, I got a job in Washington, D.C. And so I sold all of my furniture, everything I had. My dad helped me, came and packed the stuff that I was taking to D.C. I moved to D.C. I was there for less than a year. I hated it.
Really? Swamp.
I did. I didn't like it. I think I missed the real South, if that makes sense. I missed the hospitality and people being nice and all of that. And so I just didn't like it. And I felt, and despite the fact that it's a large city and a lot of people, I felt very lonely there. Really? I felt very alone, even being surrounded by people. And so then I started praying. And when I moved to D.C., I didn't really pray about that move, right? I just said, I know I don't want to be here. Yay, I'm moving to a bigger city. And so once I got there and realized I didn't like it, I started praying and writing what my mom has always taught us to do is write prayer letters. So I was writing prayer letters to God, saying, God, put me back where I'm going to be happy and around good people and be loved. And I didn't even say put me back. I said, put me where?
Where you want me to be.
Yes. And so I got a job offer to come back to Augusta.
Now, did you come back as judge, or how does that?
I came back. I was attorney. I was still an attorney. When I moved to DC, I was an attorney. I came back as an attorney, and the day after I wrote I'm gonna say my most sincere, my strongest prayer letter. The very next day, I got a job to come back to Augusta, and so for me, that was like confirmation. Okay, I needed to be back in Augusta, so I moved back here, and some years later, I met my husband.
That's good. Okay, Dr. Brown. Now, I read on your card that you've born and raised in Augusta.
Born and raised in Augusta. I've left before, stayed gone for a good while, and then next thing you know,
you back.
I'm back.
Here we are.
And it's funny, Judge Pounds, that you were saying how, I've worked in D.C. prior to just actually coming back here. I just came back this year again. So I was in D.C., in the D.C., Maryland area for a long time and building programs there that basically work the gamut for families and children and youth and elderly, everybody. And it also included like substance abuse. And when my mom got really sick, I was like, okay, gotta go home. So I came back home and I left that job on Thursday. And on Tuesday, I got a call to come start working at Willing Way. So I
Same
said,
kind of situation that Judge.
okay, God, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
If you want to make God laugh, you just plan something.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And so it is also a pleasure for me to be here. It kind of brings it full circle for me because throughout my career, my focus has always been on mental health. But just considering that this expands mental health because substance abuse is a part of mental health and just helping communities and different groups of people understand, just the dynamics and how important it is that we share about, what happens to people and the things that they go through, and not only to people themselves, but their families, because I've had people in my family that have been abusers of alcohol, substances, all kinds of things. And so these are things that we all go through, but just being able to talk about it and share experiences about it and being able to help develop ways that we can help individuals and help each other. Yeah. That's what it's all about. That's what America is supposed to be about.
That's right. You're exactly right. It's tough. I remember when I knew that I had a problem, I had insurance at the time, and they told me to look on the back of the insurance card and call the mental health number. I was a little too proud. Like, I don't have a mental health issue. I tell you, I'm drinking too much. It was almost like ignorance. Like, this is what alcoholism is. It's mental health issue. So, and so this is the beauty in having both of you ladies here with us today, from the legal side of things and from the healing side of things in both of your lines of work. Did you always know that you wanted to work to help families that have been struggling through, addiction? How did you know that was like your calling?
So I knew that I wanted to help people. That has always been my calling. Since I was a very, probably 4 or 5 years old, a small child, I knew that I wanted to be an attorney, to be a judge. Growing up, my grandma was kind of like the grandma that helped everybody. Does that make sense? Like, she was the person, if something was going on, you would call Miss Elise, and the next thing you know, she's writing the mayor, she's writing her congressperson, she's writing whatever she had to do. She's going to court with you.
She's going all out.
Yeah, she's going all out. She's going to go to court with you. She's going to do whatever she had to do. And so watching her, and she was the person who took care of me in the summers. I had an uncle, and God rest his soul, who had a very serious drug addiction, very serious drug problem. And my grandmother was also, as far as the mom, that she's going to whatever drug house in the middle of the night, knocking on the door saying, "Is my son here? I need for him, I need for you to let him out. Or has my son been by here because I'm looking for him?" And she was doing all she could to help him. He spent some time in prison. And so while he was there, she was doing all she could to try to, help his situation there. When he came home, she was doing everything she could to keep him sober. And I did see that, as a child and teenager, even, while I was in college, I witnessed his struggle, and I witnessed her struggle to help him with his struggle. Although I knew I wanted to help people, I didn't necessarily know. I thought it was just from a legal standpoint. Yeah. I had never connected drug or alcohol dependency and, doing whatever I'm doing legally. But once I started doing accountability courts, and it took me back to that place.
Because there's a balance there, right?
Right.
Like, when do you draw the line with being an enabler, Like, I'm not saying grandma was an enabler, but people get caught up with it like, I'm going to help them get through this season or this weekend. They got to want it before they can get the help.
That's so true. And I see that a lot with court. And I've told some parents that from the bench. I understand that you're here and you want this, you want your child to get help. And my child, a lot of times, it's a 50-year-old child or a 40-year-old child. I'm not even talking about 18, 19, 20. I'm talking about a fully grown adult. Yeah. And they have a parent that's saying, well, I want you to help them, but let me tell you how to help them. And I'm like, what you've been doing for the last 20 years hasn't worked. It's my turn.
Hey, before we get back to this episode, I want to take a second and thank the team at Coleman Construction. Tim, you and the whole team do a phenomenal job, and I'm so thankful for your sponsorship of the Recovery Valve podcast. So in your line of work now, what do you see a lot of? Has things changed since you've become a judge to where you do see a certain age group that are battling more with alcohol or drug dependencies? And do you see what do you see in marriages specifically?
So as far as age group, I think what has been most surprising for me, and I've only been on the bench since January 2023. So, it's going on 2 years now. I think what's most surprising to me is the amount of young people who are struggling with addiction. And whether that's alcoholism, whether that is some type of drug dependency, even just prescription pills, it's the amount of young people who are struggling with addiction. I feel as if now I'm seeing people younger and younger who have some serious. I mean,
Really?
and I don't think they realize it. I don't think they realize the depth of their addiction.
More male than female?
Both.
Really?
Yeah, both. And I think I'm also seeing, as far as, with marriages, older people, what I'm seeing is the spouse who is hanging on for dear life, trying to help. And with some of the younger married people that I've seen, I'm seeing a lot of both parties are struggling through the addiction. And so it's almost as if, I have people in my program and they're like, Judge, I'm trying, but my wife smokes, or my wife drinks every night.
It's hard to change that playground.
Vice versa, right? And so it's hard when you're in a house with somebody that's doing that. But with older couples, what I tend to see more is that other spouse is actually trying to help their spouse get off the drugs or stop drinking. And so
yeah, it's tough because when we're in the program, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the statement. You got to change your playground, your playmates, and your play habits. And if you're married and it's at home, it's tough. I can only imagine. Dr. Brown, what's some of the things that you see in the work that you do? Because, we met at the local ACARA meeting, and so, that's how our paths crossed. But are you specifically more toward females or males? What is Willing Way?
So Willing Way is open to both males and females. Up until recently, we have not been involved with drug court because they are really it's an establishment. We're trying to be established better in Augusta. But we do a lot of virtual stuff from now that kind of piggybacks on what they're doing in Statesboro. So they run the whole gamut of hospitalization. You can do detox, you can do partial hospitalization. And then once you move back out into the community, you can do outpatient. And one of the things that, especially given in the COVID environment, one of the things that we're offering is the virtual program where I can do intensive outpatient, which is like 9 hours a week with different clients, or I can do regular outpatient if they want to do it in a virtual climate.
And they have to choose to do that?
They can choose to do that.
They don't have to be court ordered.
They can be court ordered too.
Can be?
Yeah. Okay. But most times when it's court ordered, they're court ordering them to participate in a program.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on the needs of the family. Like if it's a mom, she doesn't have a job, but she may not be able to get to wherever she needs to be, or she has to have child care. So one of those things is to be able to alleviate those situations where, we can do it virtually, but I have to look at you. You got to be on the screen. You're going to see me. I'm going to see you. We're going to be on the screen, and we do a lot of interactive activities so that I know that you're participating. But the biggest thing for me is that you have to want to be there.
Right.
Even if the judge tells you that you have to go, it doesn't matter until you want to go. You have to want to better yourself. And I want to piggyback on something that Judge Pounds was saying about like the people that we see coming into treatment and even going through her court. Like this generation, it is diseased, if you would, with younger people who, and I think I attribute it to kids having to raise kids and doing a lot of things that they normally would not do just to be able to cope. And then because you're trying to raise your sisters and brothers, you're trying to be you parentified, so you're trying to be in those places where parents normally are. And then you got to have an outlet as well. And so they find their outlet in the different drug areas, whether it's smoking marijuana and then that can lead to other things, right? That's the biggest thing. Or drinking alcohol, and they don't realize how it's affecting them just their total being, their total well-being. And so then it becomes something that, as adults, it becomes a part of them. And it's a very hard habit to break.
Very hard.
When addiction hijacks a marriage, both spouses suffer, and marriages begin to fall apart. But there's always hope. Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together, a new unique resource from author Eric Kennedy and XO Marriage to help spouses navigate the throes of addiction and work their way through the recovery process together. Each chapter of this book includes discussion questions for you and your spouse to work through individually. Once you are finished writing your answers, both spouses are encouraged to come together and share their responses with one another. This realistic guide is a companion piece to the recovery process. It's time to recover the marriage that addiction stole from you. Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together. Now available for order on Amazon and exomarriage.com.
Are there a lot of married couples that go through your program with Willing Way?
Most of them have been married. And again, some of them are dealing with, my spouse does this or that. And then some of them you do have spouses that are abstinent, but at the same time, they're struggling with that person to help them through. Or situations where it has just become such a burden, it's a lot of divorce and different things coming out of it. So when I met you and started looking at this book, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, because I can use this as a tool to help those couples and families, because I'll open even the treatment up to the family.
Right.
As long as they give me permission to be able to do that, I can meet with them one-on-one, but then I can also establish family treatment. So this is a good way to integrate family treatment and couples therapy into that, so that you focus on not only the person that is the actual user, but you're focusing in on the feelings of their spouse, the things that they go through, and then it gives them a means to be able to hear objectively, how they are affecting the people in their lives.
Yeah,
so
remind me to
important.
give you that $100 later for saying all that. Okay,
Oh, okay,
that's promotional. Promotional. No, I totally agree. And one question I was going to ask both of you ladies: are there statistics that you look at that you use to measure what you like to see in the outcome? So, what percentage of people make it through drug court and are successful? And then, for example, what are people going through at Willing Way?
I want to say, as far as successful, I want to say it's about 90%.
That's a great rate.
Yeah, I think it's about 90%. Now, let's say 95% here or there, okay?
Okay.
And what we look at especially too, though, is recidivism rates, because that's one of the main things that we're trying to do with accountability courts or treatment courts is we don't want people to be a revolving door. No. And so with the recidivism rates, we are below 10%, which is really good as far as for DUIs. Because usually what you see is a person gets one DUI, the next, they have a second one. Yeah. So that's what we focus on. We try to focus on giving them tools, of course, because while you're in the program and you can't test positive, or you're going to be sanctioned for that, and you're going through treatment, and you're required to go through AA, and sometimes you're required to do residential treatment. While you have all of these resources, it's easy to kind of stay on track.
Yeah.
And so what we find is that some of our participants say, "Okay, I've graduated. Now what?" Because now I have nobody telling me to come in and test.
Right.
I have no one saying.
What's the aftercare?
Right. And so we try to give them the tools to move on. So once they leave our program, they can still use those same tools. And we tell them, continue to go to AA. Continue, if you have a sponsor or someone that you're talking to, continue to have that person. If you need to come back to treatment, come back to treatment, but do what you have to do to kind of stay on track. And so that's what we're hoping for. Yes, or whatever it is. And so I've had some participants say, I decided to go back to a treatment provider because I was doing okay, but I kind of felt like I was kind of getting off track. And we have some people say, Listen, like I never stopped doing AA, or I've never stopped. People continue to use some
Yeah.
of those same tools. It's not court ordered
Right.
anymore, and so that's what we hope for.
I've always tried to compare it to like finding the right gym. Like I've bounced around different gyms, even churches. Like you go try all these different churches. You got to figure out what works for you. You know, where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
I've gotten 2 DUIs within 5 years. I remember going to court, and then I had to have the device on my car where I had to blow in it to crank it up. Is that still like what's some of the laws that people face today if they got 2 DUIs in 5 years?
2 DUIs in 5 years. Ignition interlock, which is what you're talking about, is definitely one. Of course, going to jail. Jail
Go to
time.
jail.
Yeah. Also, there's a device called I call it Scram, but they keep telling me the name is Cam now. Things change, but
Yeah.
like there's a device that you have to wear around your ankle possibly, or if you can't do that one, there's a device that you have to blow into every certain amount of hours once it notifies you. There's also, of course, random drug screens.
Once they go to court and they're mandated, even if they're not mandated, when they come to therapy, we always try to keep the doors in a place where they're open enough so that you're comfortable. So the biggest thing is people have to feel comfortable when they are engaging in therapy. And that's going to reach like so many realms of things that are going on internally to get to the core of why you're even abusing whatever it is, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or substances. It doesn't matter. So the thing about it is that as a resource, it's always good to just make sure that, no matter what's going on, your clients have an in. The thing that is that stood out to me to Willing Way when I began working with them is that they have a whole alumni association, right? And so that is a way that they keep people engaged and involved. And so, and I'm talking about like homecoming. They have homecoming.
So they create a network.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the resources are there. They have people that come and speak and all kinds of activities. So they're always engaging in ways to just kind of keep their clients close in case, just in case.
I love
if
that.
you need, if you do need help, of course, like she said, we're always trying to look at ways to reduce recidivism, right? So there's the follow-up, there's the constant follow-up with whatever's going on, whatever activities. But to have an alumni association that can carry you and make sure, provide you with information on a regular basis to make sure that you stay sober and that your road is as smooth as it can possibly be. It's just that's one of the things that I really, really have admired this organization.
I love
about.
that. I didn't know that you guys did that. So I sent you ladies some questions. One of the questions that I asked was, what's your favorite song right now? And I love that you put Refugees. Tell me why that song.
Killing Me Softly.
Okay.
So I'm a Lauryn Hill fan.
Okay.
Right? But it's just something about that particular song. When she came out with that song, when they really kind of redid it, I guess, and came out with that song, it was at a particular time in my life when I was just going through a lot of things.
Okay.
And so the music, I love music,
Same,
right? As a child, I would literally lay on my floor in my room. My mom bought me a little stereo as a beatbox back then, right? And I would lay on the floor and listen to the music and learn the words. That particular song, it was just when she's talking about strumming my pain through your fingers, and it just was reaching out to me in a different way. And I just love that song. It's something about it that even now, when I get into a mood, I just really have to reach out and put on my playlist of things, right? But it's that song.
I love that.
About how it just, it reaches my emotions on a whole different level and just, helps me get through. So that's
it never
my
gets
song.
old. Now, Judge Pounds, the song that you put was Open My Heart.
Yes.
Tell me why.
I guess for similar reasons as you. The lyrics start alone in the room. It's just me and you. I feel so lost. I don't know what to do. And it's Yolanda Adams. She has a beautiful voice. Oh, she has a beautiful voice. And she's talking to God, and she's saying she's alone And basically she's stressed out, she's going through, and all she knows to do is open her heart to God, and I think we've all been there.
Yeah. Sure.
And that's, kind of what I do. So sometimes, even if it's just like my closet where, I go in and I'm going in to pray, and I just talk to God, and I say, God, right now it's just me and you. There's nobody else in here. There's nobody else around, and I need to talk to you. And, I need you to guide me. And that's what she's talking about, God guiding her through whatever problem she's going through. And it's a beautiful song. And so I play that song often.
Good.
And I mean, sometimes I'm just riding down the street, and
You sing it loud in the car?
I do. I sing it very loud in the car. I do. I can't sing, but
we can
you
in
can't
the
tell
car.
me that. Yeah,
in the car with the windows up and the music
Right
as
in the
loud as you
shower.
can. In the shower.
Right in the shower.
No, I like asking questions about music. One, it's just like I said, I love music. Like my mama brought me up with the record player. She would clean on Saturdays and she'd put on stuff that she loved from the 70s and the 60s and the 80s. And so, she got me hooked on music a long time ago. But before we close, I got just a few rapid fire questions. All right, so this is rapid fire, okay? You ready?
Rapid fire, okay.
Person you would trade places with for one day.
Beyonce.
Guilty pleasure.
Chocolate. Lots of chocolate.
Best compliment you ever got.
That I have a beautiful spirit.
Worst piece of advice you've ever got.
You only live once.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Something you wish you were better at.
Swimming.
What will always make you smile?
My children.
Good. That's great. All right. Dr. Brown. Person you would trade places with for one day.
Beyonce.
Okay. Guilty pleasure.
Food.
Best compliment you've ever got.
Being a mother.
Okay. Worst piece of advice you've ever got.
To keep it all in.
Something you wish you were better at.
Swimming for sure.
What will always make you smile?
My children.
That's awesome.
See, I told you, we're here.
I love it.
Kindred
We're
spirit.
here. Yes.
I mean, I think we felt it from the very first time that we
Yeah.
met, even across the room.
Yeah.
And then just conversations and,
Yeah.
just,
I'm so glad you guys connected.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I've got to do a selfish pitch toward the end here, though, but I've given you both a book. The reason I gave you both a book is because, one, I know that we kind of network together now. And as we network together, I just want you to always think that if you're dealing with couples that are struggling for that, what to do afterwards. I've gone through drug court, or my wife's gone through drug court. I've gone to Willing Way, or my wife's gone to Willing Way. What do we do when we get done? Like, I spoke at graduation.
Yes.
What's tomorrow look like? That's what I thought about when I was speaking and I saw those men and women in the room, like, what are they going to do tomorrow? And so if they are married, I would love to make sure that you guys have copies of the book to give to them. If you can work it into a program, that's great. But if it creates or saves their marriage, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to use this platform for, is to give a platform to you to share what you're doing in the community, but also just help those for that what's the next day look like. But thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dr. Brown. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank
Judge
you for
Pounds,
having
love
us.
working with y'all.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you did too. It was
Yeah,
a lot
I
of fun.
did.
Yeah.
I
Thank
did.
y'all so much. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for tuning in today's episode of Recovery Vow Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to connect with us, you can connect with us through email at recoveryvow@gmail.com, our website, recoveryvow.com, or you can find us on our different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But we would love for you to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. If you would like to pre-order a copy of my book, Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together, you can do that through the store at exomarriage.com, or you'll see a link on any of our social media platforms. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Recovery Vow Podcast is brought to you by Goldneck, Newsom Electric, S&S Supplies, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Rhett Walker, Atlas Health and Wellness, Norval Fixture and Equipment, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Augusta Dream Center, Bagwell Insurance, Sally Kohler Photography, Burroughs Elijah, Attorney at Law, Communigraphics, Kendra Neal Studio, Kendrick Paint and Body, Coleman Construction, Augusta Magazine, Corbin Jones State Farm, Game Changers, Tree Guys with Ties, Penn Roofing, Aggressors Adventure, Posey Funeral Directors, Craig International.
And I want to say thanks to everyone else who's contributed to the Recovery Valve podcast. We couldn't do this without you.